Hello there, and welcome to the No Script Show. A little while ago, days, weeks, months, not sure, we made the first video of this particular mini series, if you like, where we were redesigning a randomly picked coffee shop and bistro. In the first video, we reimagined the owner's aims and created a static version in Figma. Now, David has coded this up, and we're looking at the challenges that came with that. The code is on GitHub, and there will be links in the show notes if you want to use that to follow along. So how are you doing, David? You all right?
Yeah, I'm really good. Yeah, we said on the last one that we'll put these two videos out together, so it will be 5 minutes, but it's been a couple of weeks actually. So
Yes.
and the site is still to be done. Shall we share our screen? So
Let's
just
do it.
because more people on our last time saw the second video, so they'll need to know what we were doing. So initially we had this site which we picked out, and we thought, looking at some of the text, we can maybe pull out some different things that they do here and explain it better. So we went over to Figma and knocked up something like this.
Nice. Yeah.
And now it's turned into the actual site here.
Subtle change in name there, I noticed, David.
Yes, it's gone from being Green's Kitchen to Nathan's Bistro.
I like it. Can
Yeah,
I
I
just
thought you might-
say, I work
Yeah.
very hard. If I look at the opening hours there, I'm fabulously busy. Look at that, 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. more or less every day of the week. I'm so busy, David.
Yeah.
I haven't got time to deal with this website. I've got to go and make coffee. It looks nice, though. It looks just like your Figma design. Well, I think it looks just like your Figma design. Obviously, as you've been in the weeds of it, you're going to tell us different, I'm sure.
Well, there was a
Um,
cock-up. I
Oh.
mentioned to you earlier that in the last video where I said something where I questioned it while I was saying it, so I knew there was a kind of cock-up in there. I was saying that we created a light version. Let me just go over here. But we wanted the dark and just have this as an option. And then I did ask the question, who sets just light? And it kind of made me realize as we were recording that no one does, because you can't do that. You are set to a default of light and you change it to a dark in most systems. So that kind of, even though we're looking at it here, most people will come to the site with it being this color. So it is white on here. And to show that the dark is there, I've put in a toggle switch so you can toggle between the two. So
Let me just try to understand that a little bit. So in all browser settings or your OS settings, if you unpackage that computer or phone and get it from the shop and open it up for the first time, everything's set to just not dark mode. It's light mode by default. And so if you build a website which is in effect you want a really dark design, then that will be a puzzle for the light dark toggle, because you've got to provide light as the default, even though you may want to have dark as the design. So how do you overcome that? You can't really, can you? You just have to have a default of light.
yeah, I think if you want to force a dark mode on everybody, then, and you still want to offer some other theme, you would have to call it theming rather than light and dark mode. I think, so I made this decision, after we did that call, again, that's a mess up. Do I just forget the light, or do I go with putting this in? And I thought it's a good chance to introduce this toggle, which I won't go into too much detail because I did, and it's in our links on here, which I've actually got under events, which goes into how that toggle kind of works. So it's an odd thing. It's made me think a lot about light and dark modes. I think they're growing in popularity, giving the user a choice.
Yeah, especially if you're offering the client, if the client comes to you, and I don't know, it always felt like jewelers would be a perfect case for like a dark mode. I don't know why that is, because it obviously it sets off the jewelry, doesn't it? It looks fabulous on that dark background. But the default, you can't really offer that if you're going to honor the light dark mode settings, which is becoming, it's very important to a lot of people now. I set dark for everything, actually. That's just the way I do it. So for me, I wouldn't probably even notice. I'd show up and I would have a dark site. But if it was the client wanting a dark site by default, you've got to have the option for it to be light as the default. Yeah, I don't really know how you square that circle, if you like. That's peculiar.
Yeah, I think if you really want to control the branding and dark is what you need, then those pages probably need to force that as the standard for everybody. But I think, where there's a good reason to offer the two is something like a blog where people are reading articles and stuff, and there's no styling because it becomes quite a pain to do this. And we've talked about it before, and it's certainly in my video that there's a big move to introduce in browsers the dark and light mode as an automatic thing. So you can use the CSS preference for light and dark. But when you introduce something like this, which I'll show you later, you kind of have to find some separate CSS to light and dark mode preferences. It doesn't work on that to be able to swap these over.
Okay.
So you can really quadruple your work by getting into this.
Gosh.
If you do this.
So what your approach for this though has been default to light with a toggle for simplicity in this particular case, but the intention would have been to have default as the dark, but that's been hijacked. Okay. All right.
That's how we decide.
We'll leave that puzzle there for other people to figure out.
Oh, so what should we cover here? We've got quite a lot of things to, I've put under events here, a bit of a list of things. So, I mean, for those who didn't see the first video, I won't go into too much detail. The approach that we've used for laying out the CSS is something called cube CSS. So probably watch that video if you want to know a bit more. There's a link over here. There's all the standard things. So I have tested it for high contrast themes and using outlines on it, which we talked about the first time. Everything's logical properties, so there's no left, right, top, and bottom. We did check accessibility before. We didn't use Wave on the side, but I did do a test on it, and you see it comes out fine. It almost meets triple
AAA?
Yeah, AAA of, I think it's version
WCAG 2.0?
2.2, I think.
2.2, okay.
But that's on testing, so it's fine. One thing we didn't mention before, because we were talking about what we would test before we go live, and a thing that I haven't done really with my WordPress sites, I got out of the habit of it, but you'll remember, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You used to carry the badges for whether you're...
That's right, yeah, whether you
HTML.
were... Had your HTML been checked? Was it validated? I used to obsess about this stuff, and it was always a disappointment. I used to go to... I don't know if it was... I doubt it was the Web3 validator, but I used to go to some validator, and it was always a case of, you know, I'd put the website in and there'd be hundreds of things that I hadn't anticipated. But you've done really well. You've got none.
Yeah, well, I've started to do this, and only really from... You can't, as we were mentioning before, if you say run some CMSs that put CSS in line as they do, you're not going to pass because there's things that it doesn't understand. But it's not worth doing the CSS one validator because it's not up to date with all the modern CSS, which is perfectly valid and passes baseline. But here, it's not that difficult, and I think it's worth doing, which I did on the last one as well for all the pages, just to see if it's something that might slow down your performance, because HTML is forgiving, but it still makes the browser do more work for, you know, not ended up.
I'm just going to highlight the URL there. So it's validator.w3.org/new NU.
Yeah, I used to get it from the web developers toolbar.
Okay,
right. The way I do it. So it's under the tools here, and you can validate there, and you can validate your local if you're working.
We can't see that. What have you got a drop down on?
Oh, you can't. Yes,
Chrome extension or something. Yeah, but you've got a Chrome extension there, which gives you that option. But
I'll point to it. That's the
yeah.
That's interesting.
What's that one called then? Is that just developer tools? Is that
do you see that? You don't see.
We can see that it's a purple cog. Beyond that, we can't see anything.
Yeah, it's the web developers toolbar. Very popular. It's available for Chrome and Firefox. It started out on Firefox actually.
Okay.
There's usual stuff in there. I might as well have a look at it.
Go on. You know you want to. So we're going to Google. Right, look at that. 100. Everything's 100.
It will drop actually on some tests on it because we've got bigger images on the top and we've got a font this time. Last time we used all standard fonts. This time we're loading a font. So they have been preloaded, which I'll move on to. But that's it really. So yeah, we talked about the dark and light mode.
Yeah, I think have we done that? Have you covered everything you wanted to say there?
Yeah, I mean, watch that other video on this. I mean, what I have built into this is, I mean, how it works is, and again, I don't know if you can see this.
No, sadly no.
Into that tool, right? Well, yeah, it's odd that these pop-ups. If I go and disable, which I can do with the web developers toolbar, the JavaScript, and refresh, we should see our little.
So just to be clear, you're going to disable JavaScript in this browser session, right?
Yeah. So if I just refresh this again,
oh, it's gone.
You'll see. Yeah. So it's disappeared. And what we've got on this is, because how this is working, it's not using the CSS prefers preferences. It's actually baking this in, and it's doing that by, if I go to the view the source here, what I've set is that if you don't have JavaScript working, then you're going to get the dark theme that I wanted you to get in the first place.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's baked into all of the pages, and then the CSS has the theme for dark. And then
so if you show up with no JavaScript, you're getting dark, whether you like it or not. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Or it fails. That's what you're going to get. So it does make those disappear. Now, just quickly put
it back on. Yep.
Even though you can't see what I'm doing.
No, it's okay, but we get it. You're refreshing now. And hopefully, yay, there it is.
Yeah.
Trouble is back.
Is there anything you wanted to ask on this before I just keep?
No, I'm happy to follow along from your intuition. Everything so far makes sense. No, happy. Keep going.
Okay. There was something which I mentioned in the last video about the fact that I framed all of the CSS within grid. So the header, footer, but because what it did is it allowed me to push the footer to the bottom. And I got a really weird bug using.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Well, a few times things. So I took it out in the end rather than solve the problem. It was the easiest way to do it. Because if I go over to, we haven't really shown the page much, have we here? So there we have the review stuff.
Yep.
I noticed it first on this where it's using scrolling. You can't see the scroll bar, but it is. But if I go over to here, to our menu.
Yeah.
It was really throwing, we were getting overlap going on with this kind of a scroll here. So I don't know, I never got to the bottom of it. But all I can say is what I did learn from this is by separating, using the way I'm using Cube, by putting all the different types of CSS in different files and loading those. It was really quick. It was a real quick job to be able to solve the problem.
Okay, great.
To build and creating sections. So it was easy to find it. You know, I could just sort of find out which of the sheets it was coming from, the bug.
Great.
Yeah.
So you were able to fix it easily enough. It wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, I would have been forever working out why I was getting this overflow where there was no logical region. And it just simply came down because when you put everything in grid, it naturally stretches stuff. So if you put a button in grid, I have to kind of make sure that it fits content on it to make sure that it doesn't stretch out where it's allowed to. So anyway, I never got to the bottom of it, but that was what happened there. Let's just go back to my list.
Events, which is the instructions, if you like, for this episode. Where did we get to? So that was your weird bug.
Yeah.
Font preloading, I think you'd mentioned already. Just one font, is it?
There's just the one font because I was able to get away with system UI. I think it looks okay on most of those. It seemed to work. I mean, I'm using it upper and lower case, and it seemed to fit what we were looking for.
Yeah. I'm certainly not seeing anything quirky or weird. That looks nice. Yep.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I did use for loading the fonts in. I think I'll get into the code in a minute, but this is.
Yeah, this is new to me. Okay, so I do have a question here. And that is basically, what the heck? What is Wacamai fondue?
No, if you, I howled with laughter when I heard the guy explain what it actually means. What can my font do? What can my font do? What can my font do?
I get it. What can my font do? Right. Okay. So what can your font do? Let's have a look. This is interesting.
I will do that. Let me just, if I just go into local files, you can't see this. I'm just going into, I've got this, and I shall go into my font and load one in. So I'll drag it in so you can see what it does.
Okay. So you're just dragging your font file onto the browser window. Okay.
Do you see that? Okay.
Yeah. DM serif. What was it? DM serif.
Yeah. Display regular.
Okay.
That's all that's being used there for the headings, really there. And it's great because it's really unexplored, and I will explore it in time. But there's a lot, obviously, with variable fonts. It will show you what you can do, whether you can slant them, whether you can make them thinner or thicker. This isn't a variable font, but it also gives you all this CSS down the bottom at the end. Now, I take this stuff with the Unicode range,
and
put it in there. But there are other things you can turn on and off with your stuff, which is really, about kind of alignment, the subs where you can have things rise. Is it above or below or whatever?
Yeah, I can't remember, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, these are stuff to explore. So I think this is a wonderful site to use. As I say, I only just grabbed this, but at a later date, when I want to do more with my fonts, it's great to be able to drag this in and see what things you can turn on with CSS. A lot of it's not supported at the moment, but it's coming, the more you can do with fonts and stuff. So it's great if you want to say you want old numbering styles where the sort of casing drops, if you like, for numbers.
Yeah.
You can kind of set these things, and if the font supports it, then you can add that into your CSS.
I'm just going to read out the URL into the record. So it's so it's WAKAMAIFONDUE.com. So whackamiFondue.com. And no doubt we'll put a link into the show note. That's a brilliant website. Look at that. It looks great. It looks like a menu from the 60s.
Yeah,
that's nice.
There's a really fabulous. If you go to YouTube and look up CSS Day 2024, there's the guy talks about it. It's fascinating. Fonts are his life, and yeah, it's a really good talk.
Interesting. Okay, back to the events page.
Yeah, so there was a lot of using object fit cover with this. So to get this responsiveness, so let me just kind of show off where this is going. There's a few things for the imagery. So we went with this whole sticking this over to the side, and there's a bit of a bug at the moment, which you spotted, which I need to sort out because I've taken the sort of margin off the side here. It needs to correct when we get down to smaller sizes. But I'm using object fit cover, which is a relatively new property. So you can sort of squeeze in. So where I needed this to still be there, you can see it squeezing a bit of this.
Yeah. Okay. Can you just do that again? Because I wasn't looking at it when you did it. Okay, so I'm looking at let's say the drinks there or the burger at the bottom. Okay.
Yeah, and it's going from the other side as well. So it's just cropping in, and then I get it to.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah,
right there.
It's still manageable if somebody comes in here. And then actually shouldn't have gone there. I'm using the picture tag to serve up depending on the resolution. Different look, and then it goes finally to that one, to a different arrangement of it. But it's really the object fit. So the picture tag's used there, but I'm using it elsewhere. So here again, we've got that creeping in, so it's still okay. And I think where it works really nice is here. So we've got these as squares, and that's kind of how they look on our design. But of course, when we get in there, object fit is squeezing those in.
Rectangles now.
Yeah, and it's looking okay with the changes that we have above.
Yeah, it does. And honestly, if you just arrived there, you wouldn't think anything peculiar about that, would you?
I've gone down to here.
Yeah, there you go. And it looks totally fine. Yeah.
And it looks really nice when we swap to the other as well. When we go, because then that looks like it's purposeful. So I think object fit cover is absolutely fabulous.
And it looks like you've set in each image the bit of the image that you wish to maintain the focus, if you know what I mean. So,
correct. Yeah.
So for example, the breakfast and brunch one, which has got some eggs, obviously the focus of that is the plate of food, not the stuff surrounding the plate of food. So when you went in there, I noticed that when it became like a wider, not quite so tall image heading towards mobile, then you were focusing on the bottom third and not the top 2/3.
Yeah, no, I'm just having a look here in the code. I'm just saying, so object fit cover is on the menu ID here, but it was somewhere, where have I put it? There is an ability, I've done it generic. Doesn't seem to be showing here.
So it's across all of them, or is it just you set it per image, or is it just the same?
No, I've set it for all of them. So, and it's not showing here. Maybe I haven't. It defaults to center. So
so center sort of thing. Yeah.
But you can set it so you can have bottom or bottom right. So it will retain that. I thought I'd set it to bottom.
Yeah, it certainly looked like you had, because the picture of the eggs, I could see the eggs, and all the other stuff. The top 2/3 was missing. I couldn't see that at all. So maybe you've set it somewhere and forgotten where you've put it. Text it. No.
Yeah. So that's
never mind.
So yeah, that's been used as a technique throughout all of this. The other thing which I think is worth noting is I think this is pretty cool. Now we have font snapping. So we had this thing where we want to be able to show reviews.
Yep.
And I didn't really finish this off because it was on the design. I put something to to show that this whole area is for reviews. But this is really just a scroller again. So we can hide the scroller. If I go into, again, this somewhere. So we've got scrolls.
Snap align. Yeah.
Yeah. And let me go again into the code here. Somewhere. So we've got that mandatory. Smooth behavior gives us a sort of animation on this.
Yep.
And somewhere in the code there, I must have told it to not display the I can't see what I want to see now. No, it's not there. Oh, well, anyway, what I did is
it's on GitHub.
Yeah, it's on GitHub. Please go find it. Yeah, no, there is somewhere where it's saying, no, there we are. Scroll bar width, none.
Got it.
So it got rid of the scroll like you would have normally see. And what we've done is just replace that then with some slider IDs for each of these. And then it just creates a nice little slider effect with no JavaScript.
No JavaScript in sight. Nice.
Yeah.
All handled natively by what's in the browser already.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one job I would have liked to have done, I think, for when it comes to this is I would have liked to have, you were saying, would I bother to have those pop up, on click? And it was too much of a job. I mean, I only put so many images in here. As you can see, the lazy loading was slowly loading those actually.
Yeah.
Scrolled.
Yeah.
So that's that. Yeah. We haven't really looked too much at the code. Let me just go back to my list.
Events, wasn't it? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I think the thing that took up the most time here was this L shape. How do you create these?
Oh, yeah. Show us that. Yeah, the L shapes around the images and the logo.
Yeah.
Have you? Okay.
Well, it started off with this idea of doing this. Now, generally, this is a little trick that I got from Rachel Andrews. She showed this, and it's using grid, not just for layout, grid for this.
Yeah.
So what I've done is create this little utility class called sidelines, and it makes this a grid. So we have, I don't know if you can see that very well over here, we have this sort of grid template columns, which is one FR. So it will take up the full, it's contained here. So, and then in the middle, the text is auto, and then the equal size. And then we put a bit of a gap to create the gap between this, and then just put a border in there. So this is
that's quite a bit, isn't it, to get that effect? Yeah.
Yeah, it is, but you still would have to do something very similar. It's easier, I think, with grid to be able to do this, and when you had to line it anyway. So to do the same thing on,
you had some images, didn't you, on the home page, like there? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There. Perfect.
So it's the same technique here, and actually this took me a bit, because I had all different ideas about how I might be able to, with use a border here to connect up here, and then use some sort of gradient for it to peter out. But in the end, I ended up just going with an extension of the same idea. So if we just go in here, we're doing exactly the same thing here.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But the difference is on this one, what we're adding in addition is a little bit of padding. So if I remove this one for the before over here, if I just delete that, should disappear.
Yeah, got it.
So, and if I needed to move anything above this, then I would have to use a minus margin to move it up. But in fact, it's the sort of size that we wanted. So I think this is a really neat little trick to be able to do.
It's a neat little trick. That is a neat little trick. That's almost like worthy of a video of its own, David, I think.
It is. I think what's interesting, what is due to come, because it's been requested a long time, who knows when it will come. But there is an argument now for being able to, you can't presently style gaps or lines in CSS grid.
Yeah.
So you have to make up this generated content with using content empty, and then put in there a border to make that work. But I think in the future, we might be able to do this later when the spec gets there. If we're able to style this, then it will open up a lot more options for that, I think. Okay, back to events.
Where did we get to? You had one more point on the noteworthy section, I think. Gradients.
Yeah. Well, one of the issues, back to the dark and light, and this is a bit of a cheat on this. I've done it a couple of times here. So if we go to here, if you want to change out your logo for dark or light, you really, we talked about this in the last time, where it does work on some of the modern browsers where you can put the dark and light CSS within an external SVG. But if you've got a really difficult SVG, which I was working with now, I've actually changed that into a ping because it's actually a lot lighter in this case. But you can't swap it over without putting it into your code itself, which makes it really big in the head for every page, which has to load every page. Or you have to find some other way around dark and light. So what I did on this one is I took the same logo and it looked a bit rubbish. So what I just did is, just a little idea, is I just put this gradient here. So it's transparent from the top to here and then transparent again. So it gives the same logo that you've got in light. Suddenly this kicks in. Well, it's there, whatever mode you're in. So I'm transparent up to 20% down here. And then from the 72% as it worked out to the 100%, we go transparent again. But the rest of it is this background, just to give it a bit of an effect.
Just turn it off and let's see what it looks like without it.
Yeah, well, it just goes back to what
there you go.
So like that, rather than swap over the logo and deal with that one, I just use this as a way of giving it some extra styling. And the same thing has come into effect here. I mean, it's nothing really, but I've got this hover here. Now, in order to kind of pass particularly AAA compliance with WCAG 2.2, you have to make sure that you've got enough padding between your links. So presently I fail on the bullet list on the home page where I put links in there, but you have to have some padding so someone with their thick fingers can get round here. But that makes it difficult if you do some underline styling, because then it's going to be right down here or right at the top.
Right. Yeah.
So again, just using the same technique. That was all. It was just a little workaround. To just do exactly the same thing. Use a gradient on there.
Got it.
I didn't select it very well, did I? Is it on there? Try and select the whole thing. I see it there.
Not yet. Where?
It's getting later in my day, Nathan. I'm getting not the sharpest at the moment. It's there.
Yeah. It's in there. Go to GitHub. We'll link it. Okay, so that's all the noteworthy stuff taken care of. So, all right, here's things that you think. We discussed prior to the conversation. We discussed a few things that I could see visually, and I can't remember whether you saved those already and published them to the website. But there was a few little alignment items, wasn't there? But not massively.
Yeah, there was a really interesting thing, because you're using an old phone where the font was blown up, and it still managed to create some horizontal scrolling, didn't it?
Things actually went out of the viewport. There were words which were just, just that it abutted the edge of the viewport. It literally went off. But
there was one.
I think you fixed. Oh no! What did you discover when I reset my Android? In this case, I reset the accessibility setting, so the font size was, to air quotes, normal, whatever the OS ships with. Then it worked, but as soon as I opt the font size, it broke the the width of the viewport, so some text went missing. Interesting.
Yeah, at the moment I've got this, and when we go down to that text, it's sort of centered.
Still works.
This wasn't. Yeah, but it was going right up to the edge here.
Yeah, it's right on the right hand side, isn't it? Whereas on the left, it's got a bit of padding there. Yeah.
So, when you go to GitHub, hopefully that will be improved on there. But the one that you found, which was really baffling, was this. So one of the issues when you put things in a grid, which this is, I generally on the buttons have to, because the grid stretches things, so I put on the button that it was to kind of fit the content, so it doesn't stretch wider than it needs to, which it will do automatically. But oddly with yours, it did, didn't it?
So to summarize the problem there, the book now button, it had two rows. So there was a book and then a new row said now. So the button became more of a square. But again, that got fixed by me changing my accessibility settings on Android, which then trickled down to the browser. So whatever the problem was, I can now no longer replicate. I'd have to go and put my accessibility settings back to what they were. Basically, I had the accessibility settings so that the text was enlarged across the board, like by quite a big factor. So it had gone from the normal size to something pretty jumbo. On Android, it's just a slider. You've got this 5-point slider, so it doesn't give you any value for that. You've just got normal, and then you can go smaller than normal, bigger than normal, even bigger, and even bigger again. And it doesn't tell you what that means. It just, you just get that choice. So at some point, that broke the bottom grid, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, I'd love you to test everything I do on your phone.
I find them straight away.
No, it's great because, I test generally up to 320 as the width, as the minimum width. I think, nobody's, on my settings as they are, which is generally with the font increased anyway.
Yeah.
So the fact that you found some alignment issues.
Yeah. Okay. So just querying that a little bit deeper then, does that then suggest, and I could be completely wrong here, I feel I might be, does that then suggest that if I change the accessibility settings within Android, it's changing the pixel width of the viewport for all websites? So instead of it being, let's say, 320, it might go to, I don't know, let's make a number up, 280 or something like that, and therefore breaking what you've got? Or is it just changing the font size? In other words, is it zooming into the whole website because the accessibilities, I've changed the accessibility, so everything gets bigger, the images get bigger, the text gets bigger? Or is it that just the font size is changing? And it sounds like it's zooming in entirely, but that's for another day. There's a question to be.
One thing I didn't, excuse me, as a test, what you're supposed to do is that everything should still be readable when we get to 200%.
Yep.
Let's just have a look, see.
Yeah, you see, that's not breaking in the way that mine did, is it? So maybe it's not that. You see, that looks great. Yeah. All of that looks fabulous.
Yeah, that's what we're supposed to go up to. Yeah. And that's, to be passing. That's what the expectation is, that your pages don't, that you don't lose content that you can read through doing that.
No, and to be honest with you, you didn't lose. On the scrolling in the footer, you did lose a bit of content, but on the bottom, that book now button, you didn't. Okay.
Yeah, it's just a quirk. I don't know. There are some things, as you point out, one of them that I need to correct on there because of moving this to the right side. I didn't bring back in the margin when we get down to the sizes.
Little things.
Yeah, the nice thing about this now, though, is the fact that, and I've put the link on GitHub, is if I just go back to here, we can.
It's failing. Your hosting is down. Oh no, there it is.
So let's go to GitHub, where the thing is now, and if I'll just pick any page here. What is really cool about this now, if I go over here, which was the new discovery since the last
editing
video we did. Yeah. It's just great now because it's connected up to Netlify here. So if I make my changes now on anything, in fact, I don't know if we want to test it. I think it will bore people if we do. I did leave a full stop off on purpose.
Oh, go on. Stick it back in. Let's have a look. So
let's have a look. I'll need to just go to Bistro again.
That's the way we all test things, isn't it, on a live site? Am I on the live site or am I on the dev site? I'll add a full stop. I know. I'll check for the full stop.
Here we go. We should see on the bottom here. Where is my missing full stop?
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Let's go into that.
Right. So you've opened it up. You're now in
GitHub.
Code environment, info.
Although, why this will be very boring. So there we go. There's my missing full stop.
Yeah, add the full stop. Save it.
It should tell me now I need to update.
Yeah. Push it.
And now I have to say what I'm doing. Add.
Oh, you've got to give it some reference point.
Yes, full stop. Is it one word?
Yeah, that'll do. There, whatever. It's good enough.
Commit and push.
And
the problem is here, what I've noticed, I've only really tested this today, is that if I go into incognito mode with that site, it seems to arrive there quicker than it does because my browser loves to hold on to it.
Can I just say, it disappeared from the code editor. The full stop went away. Go back to the code editor. Look, it's gone.
Oh my gosh. Hold on.
Add it in. I don't know what you did. You'll have to add another commit.
Noticed the change. Yeah. I'm going to have to commit again.
It's definitely there this time. Add another full stop. It doesn't get better than this, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, this is
YouTube videos par excellence, adding full stop.
Here we go. I'm committing and put, heck, hang on. You've been committed since the start. You must merge. Now I'm getting
now we just back away. Back away, David.
Yeah. Well, Actually, let's see what's happened here.
Yeah, refresh. Let's see. But I suspect it won't be there. Oh, and
it's
it
there.
is. Of course it is. Yeah.
Yay, it was a success.
It worked. That's, ladies and gentlemen, is how you don't do it.
Yeah. Anyway, it's lovely the fact that you can just kind of connect these things up and make these changes here.
Very nice.
And to live site. Anything we need to
No,
cover?
I think you were going to mention what we're thinking of doing next time, which is a really interesting, I think a really great idea actually, around bento boxes and things. But if I think from this point of view, this particular episode, I have to say, as the client, the owner of this fabulous bistro, I'm very happy. I will. I'll pay your fee right away with a 10% bonus for being accessible as well. So, bravo, David. If only the world worked like that.
Yeah, did I not mention the bento box stuff that we were talking about? I didn't get into it, did I?
No, I don't think so. We mentioned it prior to the call. No, did you?
Yeah.
I don't think we did.
Well, next time, tune in for next time if you got this far. I hope we'll get back to what we want to do, because a lot of this stuff was sort of minutiae stuff, which, the look of the site is pretty simple, and this is a lot of CSS to do it. What I'd like to do is to try and do some individual sites, the type of clients we get that don't have much, that maybe a handyman or a counselor who would go to Wix or Squarespace or something probably to do their site, and do these with kind of bento boxes. It would be nice to do something where, in an ideal world, we could set up nice grids so that CSS is so simple that we could change the kind of look. And it would be possible to teach somebody who has no coding knowledge how to sort of manage their own site a little bit. Yeah. So I'd like to try and do a little bit with that. Let's see how far we can get on that. So I think
a variety of differently styled bento box, single page website kind of thing.
That did have to be single page, but just dealing with that home page, I think it's a really, So I think that's what we'll try and do next time. A bit simpler with the CSS, something easier to explain.
Okay. In which case, we will see you next time, whether that's 5 minutes from now, a week, a day, a month, or even a year. We'll be back at some point with another episode dealing with bento boxes. That's brilliant. I'm happy. Now what you haven't downstairs, my bistro is really falling apart without me. So I'm going to go down and grapple with the unruly waiting staff that are getting out of hand, frankly. So thank you, David. Brilliant. Yeah. Well done.
Thanks.
That's a real demonstration.
This is fun. Thanks for this. All right. See everyone next time.
Bye. Bye.